Marcellus, I'll start with you.
Yes, please.
Will Jimmy G ultimately cost the 49ers a Super Bowl appearance?
Absolutely not. Jimmy G has a set of circumstances that get lost when you talk about him as an overall talent. We all know he's coming off the ACL injury, and they usually predict that a guy will be himself in 2 years, not 1 year from that injury. 2, he's missing his 2 starting offensive tackles. 3, he had no receivers until one landed last week, and as soon as he landed off the plane, he got a touchdown in Emmanuel Sanders. Also, if we're talking about Jimmy G in terms of expectations and growth when it comes down to the playoffs and the Super Bowl run, let's also compare him to some quarterbacks, great ones and not, who had subpar playoff runs and still were Super Bowl champions. Everyone wants to pick on our man, Trent Dilfer, and I'll be the next to do it, even though he's my man. We all know what Trent Dilfer did in the playoffs during his run, and he started 8 games, so he didn't even play the entire season, so chemistry could have been the issue. 12 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Let's go to Tom Terrific, Tom the Great, the GOAT. Last year we saw him in the playoffs, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Let's talk about him in his early years when Tom the Terrific went out there and averaged the first Super Bowl run under 200 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, and got it done. This is the most balanced team in the NFL when we talk about the San Francisco 49ers. Number 1 defense and number 6 in terms of offense. No team has greater balance. Jimmy G will peak at the right time and lead this team in the playoffs.
I think one of the things you have to understand about Jimmy G is, think about this now. You know that Baker Mayfield has more starts than Jimmy G? Jimmy G got a contract, and all of a sudden, because he'd been behind Tom Brady, all of a sudden we thought, oh, okay, he's ready to roll. There's still a huge learning curve going on with Jimmy G. Jimmy G has got some great arm talent. Jimmy G is going to make 3 mistakes a game. That's what he does. Now, as you grow and as you mature and as Kyle Shanahan continues to coach this team and put them in the right position, do you get to the point where you're mature as the playoffs roll around? Are you peaking as the playoffs roll around? This is a talented football team, and I will tell you, you're right. You're not only down to your backup tackles, it's your 4th and 5th offensive tackle, and you're minus the best fullback in all of football in Kyle Juszczyk. He's one of the most just tough matchups in all of football. So I look at this like there's still a learning curve going on. Jimmy G is not going to cost them a chance at the Super Bowl because I don't believe Kyle Shanahan will let Jimmy G cost them a chance at the Super Bowl.
Not only will he not cost them, but he's one of their strongest links on this team.
Cut it out.
He's not a weakest link. He's a strongest link. Let's think about this for 2 seconds. In your Whitlock, you just talked about how he was gallivanting around with an adult star, adult film
model.
Right, okay.
At night.
We're using those things in a derogatory manner, a devaluing of sorts, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's look at this and let's flip this around and let me brain do y'all for 2 seconds, all right? The fact that he's comfortable enough to do it means that Jimmy Garoppolo is actually comfortable enough with himself, all right? In today's society and our culture, we're driven by trying to get the validation from you and you and you and me and other people. It doesn't seem as though he is, okay? So when you have a quarterback, it seems as though this Niners team has been able to put the process in place. They had a structure. They have the process. They have a game plan. Know your role. The fact of the matter is Jimmy Garoppolo is probably the biggest link that they had, the strongest link that they have, because he's not trying to be Tom Brady. He's not trying to be Aaron Rodgers. We don't hear about him trying to get the accolades and the headlines that some of these other guys out here are getting. He is playing his role. And for that, for the defensive side of the ball to get the headlines and be talked about and praised the way and revered the way that they are. And he's just going right about his business along the road, doing what Jimmy G does. Good for him and good for this Niners team. I think they're okay.
Some of your best work. Some of your best work.
I love that.
I disagree with it because I think all of y'all are forgetting who else is in the NFC. And so at some point in these playoffs, he's going to line up against Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, and they're going to make
his
better.
His defense is going to line up against them.
I get it, but the matchup at quarterback, and
Okay.
they're going to make consistently better decisions than Jimmy G, and he's going to do something silly and stupid and loose with the football because he plays footloose and fancy-free in all aspects of his life, he's going to do something, turn the ball over, and cost him a game. They've been getting away with it. The defense has been carrying him. I get it. But eventually, a quarterback that throws this many interceptions when he's really not even called upon to carry the team, the running game, the defense, the whole 9 yards, he keeps finding a way to throw these bad interceptions. The Pro Football Focus has broken down the film, the stats, the whole 9 yards. The guy's too loose with the football, and it's going to cost him against one of these better quarterbacks.
Well, when you're missing your tackles, when you're missing your fullback, you're under a certain duress. When you don't have a receiver out there that you really can depend on, obviously you don't have that same outlet. That's why Kittles comes into play so much at the tight end position. But I really want to abstract something from this situation looking at Jimmy G in terms of his value. What were the 49ers before Jimmy G? Whatever we want to talk about in intangibles, the problem with intangibles is they're impossible to measure. But there is one way you can say, well, he brings something to the equation beyond production because look what they were in terms of culture and success before and after him. So the season before Jimmy G, 2-14. Then he's sitting there while they're 1-10. And then he says, let me go out there and play. And what's happening? They won 5 straight, goes into the offseason, gets his money. And not only does he get his money, he's trying to live his own life his own way.
His own way.
Not living up to that number, not going out there pressing and doing too much for that number, but doing whatever Jimmy G wants to do. So I have respect for a guy who was inserted into a losing situation, and now it's an undefeated situation.
Yeah, I will say this, and has he made some mistakes and has he missed some plays? Yeah. I mean, most everybody does, right? I mean, that's part of the growth process. And so does he need to play better? Yeah, to your point, he does need to play better. There's no question about that. But I look at this team in totality. Great quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls. You know what wins Super Bowls? Great football teams.
I'm glad you throw that out there.
Great football teams win Super Bowls. Peyton Manning had, nine touchdowns and 15 picks when they went to the Super Bowl and they won it? Based upon a defense and the great teams are the teams that win Super Bowls. And let me just tell you, from top to bottom, this is a great football team. They dominate the line of scrimmage. Their blocking schemes, what they do with their motions, the angles they get in the blocking game and the running game, second to none right now in the National Football League. With what they're doing and their defense, listen, man, for D Ford, first rounder, Eric Armstead, first rounder, Buckner, first rounder, Nick Bosa, first rounder. Solomon Thomas, who was the 3rd overall pick in 2017, Solomon Thomas is a 20-play-a-game guy.
Rotation.
In a rotation. I mean, they are stacked.
And you got to credit John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And again, it was some great stuff. But to call him their strongest link, I mean, my God. Kyle Shanahan is the best play designer and play caller going in football. Matt Ryan has fallen apart without him.
And without their leader at the quarterback's position being that extension of what Kyle Shanahan represents, he becomes the weakest link. Just in the same manner, he becomes their strongest link. He is an extension of Kyle Shanahan. Listen, you look at Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer was an extension of Billick, right? Would we call him the most elite quarterback in that 2000 season where they went and won the Super Bowl?
I'm not saying you have to be the best quarterback.
But you did say when they go against these other elite quarterbacks.
He's mistake prone, and it's going to bite him in the rear end.
So was Trent Dilfer. So was
let me ask you this.
These guys weren't elites.
Instead of looking at the quarterbacks, let's look at the coaches in the NFC. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So Kyle Shanahan versus LaFleur?
I like Kyle Shanahan.
Okay, Kyle Shanahan versus
Sean Payton.
Sean Payton?
I like Sean Payton.
Okay. Pete
Carroll. That's a draw. I like Pete Carroll.
Okay.
Got the experience.
You want to do the segment over, Mark?
No.
You don't want to name them? I mean, the NFC coaches are Dondadas.
Because I would say Sean Payton and Kyle Shanahan are pretty similar. Sean Payton.
Eventually, he may be on Sean Payton's level, but not right now.
Yeah, not right now.
I mean, he may prove to be. He may be right now.
Okay.
But we haven't seen enough evidence for me to go there.
But I'm just saying right now, the way the games are currently constructed and with what we've seen this season, is there anybody that's coaching a team better right now than what Kyle Shanahan is coaching?
Has been better educated throughout the course of their entire
We're all
life.
in agreement on Kyle Shanahan.
All right.
I'd just rather have Drew Brees that's who Sean Payton's working with, then Jimmy G.
Well, look at the stability at the coaching position. Credit to John Lynch once again. They had 4 different coaches in 4 years before they finally said, we got Kyle Shanahan, we solidified that position. And to that tune, Jimmy G is only second to Ben Roethlisberger in his first 17 starts in terms of wins. Only second to Ben Roethlisberger. What he's doing is almost historic.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.